Hey everyone, it's Heather with the Potomac Bead Company. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of our newest bracelets called the Rippled Bracelet. This bracelet is fairly easy to make. It is a multi-row bracelet, as you can see here. It's kind of thick. The band is thick. And it consists pretty much of several types of beads, as well as a couple of gemstones. For the bracelet that I used here, I stuck with a blue-green theme, and you can. The greatest part about this bracelet is that you could come up with any type of colors and make it all kind of work together. So like I said, I just used like a blue-green theme here, and you will need about a couple of tubes of SuperDuos. That's the middle portion here in the blue. And I did have about maybe a dozen of 4mm crystals. And I did use a couple grams of the Rullas beads here on the outside. And I used an entire 9-gram tube of O beads, as you can see in the silver. And then for the outside part, I did use 4mm round gemstones. You can use the crystals, however, you will have a little slight bend to the bracelet. And I didn't like that, so I switched it to the rounds. I think it fit better in between the Rullas. As you can see, the SuperDuos and the crystals, they have that faceted edge, so they sit a little bit better. For my clasp and toggle, I used our cup buttons here and some seed beads with the O bead as well. So this was a very fun bracelet to make, picking out several colors. And the colors that I'm going to use today, kind of sticking with like a yellow, green, brown theme here. The SuperDuos that I have here is a Crystal Magic green bead SuperDuo. My size 11, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. You will need a couple grams of size 11O seed beads. The 11O that I will be using today is in a metallic silver. And the O beads that I'm going to use is a white blue O bead. And then the Rullas that I have are actually a crystal dark tavertine Rullas. And then the crystal in a 4mm that I'll be using is in a nice yellow-brown crystal, as well as my gemstone here in a 4mm. I will be using rutilated quartz. So you will need a size 10 or 12 beading needle because you're only going to go through the quartz once. And the wildfire, or the type of beading thread that I will be using is a wildfire thread in a 0.006 inch. So once you've gotten your materials together and you've gotten your color scheme, I'm going to show you how to start our rippled bracelet. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cut about a couple of feet of white thread and I've strung it onto my beading needle. I won't use a stop bead for this project because what I'm going to do is actually create a circle. And to start this project, what you're going to do is pick up an O bead, pick up a 4mm crystal, pick up another O bead, pick up a SuperDuo, pick up an 11O seed bead, another SuperDuo, and then you're going to pick up an O bead, pick up a crystal, 4mm crystal, an O bead. And then you're going to pick up a SuperDuo and 11O and a SuperDuo. And then what you're going to do is drop that to the very end. However, you're going to leave about 6 inches of a tail. And at this point, what you're going to do is take your needle back through that first O bead, holding the tail of your thread. And this is actually the beginning of your bracelet. But what I want to do is actually secure it. So at this point, I'm just going to go through the entire sequence one more time. I'm going to go through all of these beads just one more time. Some people like to knot theirs. You can make a knot if you like. But I will tell you, you will be using the end of the tail of your thread to kind of attach your clasp. So now that I've made it back to the beginning, it should be somewhat sturdy. Now what I'm going to do is go back through the O bead, my crystal, and my O bead. This is your third time around, although you're not going to go completely around 3 times. You're only going to go halfway around. What I actually want to do is come back out through this O bead. So then I'm going to go through the next sequence here of my SuperDuo, my O bead, and my SuperDuo. And then I'm going to go through that next O bead. And I'm going to pull. So this is the beginning of your bracelet. Now I'm going to start the sequence over again. At this point, I'm going to pick up an O bead, a SuperDuo, an 11-0, a SuperDuo, an O bead, a 4mm crystal, an O bead, a SuperDuo, 11-0, a SuperDuo, and an O bead. This is your pattern, pretty much. These are the beads that you will be stringing on. As you can tell, it's pretty simple. It's an O bead, a SuperDuo, an 11-0, a SuperDuo. And then you have an O bead, a 4mm crystal, an O bead. Then you begin again with your SuperDuo, 11-0, and your SuperDuo, and you end it with an O bead. That is the pattern. And then you're going to take your needle back through that 4mm crystal from the previous circle. And it should just look like this. Now you're going to take your needle through that first O bead that you strung on, your SuperDuo, your 11-0 seed bead, your SuperDuo, and that next O bead before that 4mm crystal. And you've just created the second unit for this bracelet. And I'm going to show you one more time how to do it. Pick up an O bead, a SuperDuo, an 11-0, and a SuperDuo, and an O bead. Add your 4mm crystal and another O bead. Pick up a SuperDuo, an 11-0, a SuperDuo, and then an O bead. Now I'm going to take my needle up through the 4mm crystal from that previous unit and bring it around so it's a nice little sequence. Or you've made your sequence into your circle, your next unit. And what I want to do is make sure I get my needle out of this O bead. So I'm going to take my needle and thread, and I'm just going to thread it through the O bead, my SuperDuo, my 11-0, my SuperDuo, and that last O bead, and I'm going to pull. And that is how you this is how you begin the middle portion of the rippled bracelet. So I want you to go ahead and continue this pattern until you've gotten to the length that you want for your bracelet. Just keep in mind to leave about 1 inch for your toggle and clasp. So you don't want the bracelet too big, but yet you don't want it too small. And then once you're done, I'm going to show you how to finish the outside portion of the bracelet. Okay, so now that I've finished the length of my bracelet, I'm going to start on my top portion of my SuperDuos for this part. And just so you know, this is about a 7.5 inch bracelet, and for this length I've used about 19 4mm Czech round beads. So that's just going to give you a ballpark figure of how many beads, 4mm crystals you'll need. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my toggle. It's the best place to do it, best time to do it during this project. So now that your thread is coming out of one of the Czech glass, you're going to actually pick up 5 of your 11O seed beads and your cup button, if that's what you'd like to use for your toggle. Take your needle through one of the holes, and then I'm going to add 3 of my seed beads, and I'm putting this cup button on in a concave way. You can do however way you'd like. Take my needle down through the second hole, and then add 5 more of my 11O seed beads. And then bring my needle down the other side of my 4mm crystal to bring it all together, just like that. And at this point, what I'm going to do is bring my needle through that O bead, and it puts me in position to start my top row of my SuperDuos. What I'm going to do is just flip my project around because I kind of like to work from left to right. And at this point, what I'm going to do is pick up 2 11O seed beads and then take my needle through that top hole of the first SuperDuo. And now we're going to start using our O beads and our Rullas beads. So for the first set, what we're going to do is pick up an O bead, a Rullas bead, and another O bead, and I'm going to take my needle through that top hole of the next SuperDuo and just kind of give it a tug. Now I'm going to pick up 1 O bead and take my needle through the next SuperDuo. Then I'm going to pick up, doing the same pattern, an O bead, a Rullas bead, and an O bead, and then take my needle through the next SuperDuo, as you can see. And I'm going to pick up an O bead and take it through that next SuperDuo. I don't know if you can see a pattern, but my O bead, my Rullas bead, and my O bead, that sequence is always going to go above the 11O. So just in case you mess up or miss a count, just go back and make sure that those 3 beads are actually layered above that 11O seed bead. And you're going to keep that pattern. You're going to go through each SuperDuo until you've reached the end. And also, I just want you to realize that, I don't want you to worry, but once you're adding these seed beads, I do want you to know that there will be a little bit of a space in between your 11O and your SuperDuos. You'll see some thread, and I don't want you to worry just yet, because what's going to happen is once we add our Rullas and our O beads to the other side, it's actually going to bring everything together. So a little bit of space is actually okay. Don't pull too tight just yet. A little bit of tension is okay, but not too tight, because we don't want our bracelet to bend. So like I said, go ahead and finish this pattern until you've reached the end. Okay, so now that I've added my Rullas and my O beads to the top portion of one side of the bracelet, I'm actually now in position to add the clasp portion for my toggle. And for this part, what I'm going to do is alternate 11O seed beads and my O beads, kind of like what I did for the sample bracelet. I like this design. I think it's pretty, and it's up to you if you want to do it, if you want to use this idea. If not, you're more than welcome to use whatever type of toggle or clasp you prefer. So now that my needle is coming out of the top hole of my SuperDuo, I'm going to pick up 2 11O seed beads and take it through my O bead, as well as my 4mm Czech glass bead. And now I'm ready to add on my seed beads for my clasp. I think I'm adding on about 18 11Os here to go over my my cup bead So I'm alternating it 11O seed bead and an O bead, and doing about 18 11O seed beads, starting with an 11O and ending with an 11O. And if you're using something bigger or smaller, the amount of beads you'll be using will be different than what I am using, so please keep that in mind. And like I said, you don't need to use seed beads if you want to use something else. I like to use seed beads because it does make it look a little bit more personal. So now that I've added all of that, what I'm going to do is take my needle back down through my Czech glass bead. And my O bead. And it just kind of gives that nice clasp. So it's big enough to fit through my cut bead. So now that I'm on the other side of my bracelet, we are going to continue doing the same pattern that we did for the other side for this side. And to begin, you're going to pick up 2 11O seed beads and take it through that top hole of your SuperDuo. And since we're above the SuperDuo, 11O and SuperDuo, I know with this pattern, the beginning pattern, I'm actually going to add an O bead, a Rullas bead, and an O bead. Take it through the top portion, top hole of my SuperDuo, add an O bead, then take it through the next SuperDuo. And you're going to continue that pattern until you get to the other end of your bracelet. Okay, now that we've completed the other side of our bracelet, adding our rulers, I had to add some extra thread because I was running low. We are going to finish this bracelet off. And now that my thread is coming out of the top hole of my SuperDuo, at this point what I'm going to do is pick up 2 of my seed beads, and I'm just going to take it through that O bead. And I'm going to continue going through my O bead, my 4mm round, my O bead, and those 2 11O seed beads. It's going to bring me to the other side of the bracelet so that I can start adding on my gemstone. And the gemstone that I use today is the rutilated quartz in 4mm, and that actually probably is the best fit for this. Anything bigger is just going to make it bow, and anything smaller is the same effect. It's just going to make it bow. Make your bracelet bow. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add 4 11O seed beads, and I'm going to take my needle through the top hole of my Rullas bead. And I'm going to begin adding an O bead, my 4mm gemstone, and an O bead. And I'm going to take it through the top hole of my Rullas. And I'm going to do it again, an O bead, my gemstone, and my O bead. Take your needle through that top hole of my Rullas bead and pull. And you're going to do this all the way to the other side of the bracelet. And what you're going to do when you get to the other side of the bracelet is add 4 of your seed beads, of your 11O seed beads, and take your needle down through to the other side, just like we did at the very beginning. And then you're going to complete it on the other side. And then you'll be done. Okay, so I just want to show you how we added on those 4 11-0 seed beads. So once I had completed the top portion with my 4mm Czech glass, I went ahead and I added my 4 11-0s, and then I went through all these beads and the 2 11-0s sitting on the edge, and then I went ahead and added 4 more 11-0s, which put me back into place to begin my O bead, my Czech glass bead, or my quartz bead, and my O bead. And I did this throughout the entire top side of the other side of my bracelet. And you may feel a little bit of tension, and if you just keep on pulling to keep that tension nice and tight, that's pretty much the key to this entire bracelet. And if you do have a little bit of space here, it's probably because you didn't have a very good you didn't keep your bracelet tense with your string, and that's okay. You can go back and do that if you want. I don't mind the little bit of string because I think the gemstones actually bring the bracelet out. I think they're absolutely beautiful. So, or instead of using an 11-0, you can use an 8-0 if the string bothers you. But so now that I'm going to finish up this bracelet, I'm going to show you the last few steps here. With my string nice and taut, pick up an O bead, my gemstone, and an O bead. Take it through that top hole of my last rulla, and now I'll add my 4 11-0 seed beads, and I'm going to take it through those 2 11-0 seed beads. At this point, I'm just going to weave my needle and thread throughout my project, and just so that I get a nice tight ending to it. Do some excuse me, do some half hitch knots to secure it a little bit better, and I'm going to do it to all of my threads that I've had to add on. And I'm also going to knot my tail end here. I'm going to take it through my toggle, my clasp portion here, so it's nice and tight or nice and sturdy, and cut my threads down to the project. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to answer. It's very pretty bracelet, it's very easy to make, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Hope you check us out on Facebook and our web page if you like to order some of these beads that you've seen today, thebeadco.com. And there's other YouTube videos that hopefully you'll get to watch. And again, thanks a lot for watching this video.